This is Alex Smith, and I'm recording for Radio Ecoshock. Let's hear just a little clip of sound before we get started. So that's my first little crack at using Blue Vox, and that's the program I want to talk to you about. I've only been using Ableton for about 6 months, so I'm not a certified trainer or anything like that, and you might find better ways to do things than I'm doing. For my radio show and for the electronic dance music I make as a hobby, I want some human sound, some vocals, so sometimes we just want some singers in the background to say at least a few words, maybe backing up the lyrics or forming a hook for your song. Well, now you can do that with the program called, it released in 2014 by Realitone, called Blue Vox. The same company previously released a crew of 5 female voices called the Girls that can do some very cool vocal backgrounds from ooh to bop and more than a dozen variations. I'll show you how to use the Girls in a song, but first I want to do some impressions of Blue Vox. Let's get right to it. In a song I made about climate change, I wanted Blue Vox to chant global warming and a few other things. Actually, I wanted her to sing climate change, but the strange twist in the program's development, she lacks the vowel I. She can't say climate or I love you baby. Lots of Blue Vox users are pleading with the developer, Mike Green, to add in that vowel. Maybe that will come in a future release. Okay, so here's my song about climate change that you heard, and you can hear where she chants global warming and then heat. In a way, that's not a great example because Blue Vox can really sing instead of chanting. The voice is spread out on the keyboard, running in contact 5. If you use the legato mode, she will rise or fall into the next note, and you can play a melody or write out a melody in MIDI notes, although writing it in MIDI notes is harder to do unless you're very good at that, and I'll explain about that in a minute. So I've opened up this blank Ableton project, except I've included my standard click track, which gives me a beat to work with, and right now it's at the default of 120 beats per minute. I've added a couple of audio tracks because of my way of using Blue Vox. We'll need those, and I've taken the liberty of already loading up Blue Vox. It takes about 30 seconds to come up. I didn't think you'd want to wait for that. There's 12 gigabytes in the program with all the samples. By the way, I have a relatively small C drive. It's a SSD drive, so I put the Blue Vox files on my much larger regular F drive. And that's something you might want to think about if you get the program and you want to load it. If you're trying to do something live, you may want to have it loaded in advance. It uses about 2 to 3% of the CPU just sitting there, but that's not too bad. I don't do a live performance, and I'm going to be talking about ways that you would record it yourself. Incidentally, if you don't have the full version of Contact 5, you can buy a version of Blue Vox that will allow you to run it in the full player. That version costs more because Realitone has to pay a special license fee to Native Instruments. So now what? I want her to say or sing global warming, and let's get Blue Vox up here so that you can see how we'll do that. Okay, so this is the screen that we've got to work with, and well, let's get to it and see how we would go about it. So first I'll hit the G. I want her to say that. Now you notice that the L is still available here in my choices. I don't have to go straight to a vowel, so I do want that for global warming. So L, and then I could use OO, but I don't want global warming. I want global warming, so I'll use OH, glow, and then I'm going to use the B for global. And that's as far as I can really go at this point. Right? And you see how it's sort of phonetically spelled up here. And then, so I have to start another syllable. So I'll start my next syllable, and I want al warming, I guess. global. So all global. So there it is. Now that should be right there on my keyboard. So if I just hit it here, I get globe. It's not very loud though, so I'll just bump the volume up here. Globe. But where's the all? Well, to get globe all, I have to hit globe and then all fairly quickly. So I hit globe and release and then hit the key again. And that's global. So that's not too bad. So what I'm going to do here is record that. I've got my record button set on this MIDI track, and I just press this round button here to record. Good, so I've got that recorded. Now, what I'm going to do for the way that I handle this sort of thing is now I'm going to double click on that track. Get rid of this for now. And here's my little global. Yeah, it's not going to want to play for me. Hold on a sec. So I noticed that, it took me a while to get to the recording part of it, so I'm going to draw my start and finish lines by grabbing these little arrows in Ableton. Should have hit stop here. And get it so that it's, fairly tight on the word global there. I don't want it to loop in this instance, so I'm going to turn loop off. And that's about all I've got to do at this point. Let's try playing it. Okay, so that's the global part. Now I need the warming part, right? So I go back to this main track by double-clicking up on the track header. I hit that little toolbar to bring back my girl. There she is. So now I've got global, but the thing is, if I go right now and set up warming, it's going to record it in MIDI, and MIDI doesn't record this, so I will lose the global part. I'll have to do it all over again. I don't want to do that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this next audio track that I've got here and record that. So that'll capture it into an audio file, and that's the way I work with this. So where it says from, I'll go down to the track number 2, contact, and then you have to set this monitor to in, and it turns orange down here on the screen. And those volumes are pretty high. I'm going to bring them down just a tad. Now, what I want to do is I want to record over here as well. So I'm hitting Control so that I can click that, and both of them will be set on record. In fact, I don't really need this one to be on record. I'll just turn that off. So now I'm going to set this up. When I press that round button, it will say recording here. Then I'll hit global, and it will record it back onto this audio track. Here we go. That's all I want. I just want that word. Okay, so we'll get rid of this girl for a minute and bring that up. And here's my recording. Now, once again, it took me a while to hit the button. And so I'm just going to tighten the track start and finish up by grabbing these little arrows. Leave a little bit of room at the end because she trails off when she says global. I don't want it to loop. And I'm going to set the warping here, which I should have done with the other one, to Complex Pro or Complex. You don't want it on beats for this because it's a word, right? So now, if I just hit play right there, I won't hear it. Why not? Because in Ableton, you have to set this monitor back to auto in order to be able to hear it. Let's hear it. Pretty quiet, isn't it? Way too quiet. So we'll go back to the clip here and bring the volume up. That's this little arrow below the word RAM. It has nothing to do with RAM. You bring the volume way up. You can see it growing over here on the clip, right? So we'll bring it right up to where it's something decent and try it again. Still a bit quiet probably for you at home, so I'll turn it way up so you can hear it. Okay, so there we go. That's the global part. Now we can go back and get the warming. So I'm going to double click on contact, bring up Blue Vox again. So we're done with this global part. We need to reset it. Reset it, and we go to W for warming. The closest we can get is warming. It'll work. And then we can get the R. And that's as far as we can go once we've kind of exhausted our options here. So that means we need another syllable. Click next syllable. And then we're going to need M. I want ing, but remember there's no I in this, so the closest I can get is this eh. It works, you'll see. And then notice NG is one of the options. I could have gone N and then G, but it's set up because they know you're going to be using something ing when you're talking in English. All right, so that should be on my thing. I'm just going to hit the same C key here. I'm not getting anything, and that may be because I have to set this to my... Nope, still not getting anything. Why not? Output 1. MIDI channel, host. Not getting anything. Hold on while I straighten that out. Right, I messed up. I didn't have the record button pressed, so you're not going to hear it. So let's go for warming. Now notice I just got the first syllable. I didn't get the second. It's because I didn't hit my keys right. There, you got to get that second one in quickly. Okay. It's not easy. There we go. Takes several tries. Okay, so we'll try and record that, and it may take me several tries, but that's all right. I got time to edit it. Got it on the first shot. Okay, so that's good. Now, once again, I'm going to haul this down. We'll close that box. Tighten it up so we're pretty close to the word that I want. And we'll take that loop off. And now remember, I'm not going to be able to hear that unless I reset this to auto. Oh, it's on auto. Well, that's right. We're not at that stage yet. Okay, so that's working. Now we're going to record that to the audio track. And so that means I'll have to set this to in. It still registers from contact to, so that's all set. So we'll hit the record button here. Good, that's all we need. And I'm going to take that off loop, set it on complex, raise the volume up a bit, haul it in tight, and we'll give that a listen, but I have to change that from in to auto in order to do that. Let's see what we got. It didn't start when I wanted it to, so it's because I forgot to bring this little flag over with it. So you can set the numbers down here somehow, but I'm not very good at that, so I don't bother. Okay, so now we got global warming. Not too bad, not too bad. Now, what if I want to edit this a little bit? I'm not happy about quite how these two fit together. What I do is I've got my, on this edit button, I've got my SoundForge editing program there. You could use the free program Audacity, but I've got SoundForge. And if you don't already have that set up, you go to Options and Preferences, and then your file folder, and you see right here, Sample Editor. You put in the full path of your audio editing program. Now what if you don't know that path? Okay, what you do is get out of there. I just run my image in Windows 7 right over the icon here. It shows me the program path, but I can get it by right-clicking, choosing Properties, and where it says Target, it's already highlighted. Just hit Control-C right there, and you'll have it. And then go back into Ableton and hit this spot and hit Control V, or you can browse for it, but write it down. Whatever you got to do, get your SoundForge program in there, or Audacity, or whatever you use. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. I'm going to edit it, so I will bring up my SoundForge program. Takes a minute. I got a lot of VSTs in there. There it is, and it'll already be loaded, but look, it's so quiet that SoundForge can barely see it, and that's going to make it difficult to edit it. So even though I'm going to create some problems for myself in a minute, I'm going to normalize it. I'm going to bring it up so that it's at least 24%. All right, now I can see the actual file I'm working with, and let's hear it. There's just a little bit of a break here between the B and the A that I don't want, so I'm going to get in there, edit that. Let's try it again. Tad rough, but not too bad. Let's see what's happening. Well, I could spend a lot of time on it, but I don't want to waste your time doing it. Here's the point. You save it. You close it. You get out. Your changes are already made right here in Ableton, but that's now far too loud, as you can see, because I normalized it in SoundForge. So I'm going to bring it down closer to what the level was at the other one. I could have cut off this little front tail too, probably, if I'd been smart. But we don't have time for that right now. So now what we've got is... There it is. As I say, I could polish it up in SoundForge, but I'm not going to bother. Now, what I want to do is I want to get that to play as a phrase. How am I going to do it? Well, in the audio track, I'm going to set it up to launch the next one. It'll play global, and then it'll go to warming. So if you don't see a launch box, press this little L down in the corner of your screen. That opens this launch box. And what we're interested in is this section called follow action. We want it to, when it plays global, we want it to go to the next clip. So we choose next. Okay, so that's next is going to play the warming part, right? Let's give that a shot. Warming. Not too bad. And then what if I want that phrase to continue and continue? Well, I could go into this one, and the follow action here would be previous. So it will go back up the top. We've created a little loop where that phrase will keep replaying. Let's try it out. Global warming. Global warming. It's a little quiet here. Global warming. Global warming. Global. That's it. You get the picture. Does all that sound like a bit of a hassle? Well, yeah, it's slow, but think about the time and money required to find a lady to sing that for you, if you can find anyone at all. It would take much longer to record a real person. And you own the rights to what you've just created. No contracts, no problems. It works for me. Note that you can create a chorus of 3 copies of the Blue Vox singer right within the single contact instrument. You don't need to load 3 copies. Just choose the 3-voice option. They can sing in unison, or you can make the voices sound different by choosing dark or bright option for each voice. Mike Green has a super video out on how to do that, and you should check that on the Blue Vox site at realitone.com. Because you have MIDI now, you have another option. You can slide in a chord MIDI from Ableton and set 2 or 3 different notes, and Blue Vox will sing in those chords. I could set up a little 4-voice choir for each chord as I go along using the chord effect. If you want to create different vocal sounds, try adding the arpeggiator to this MIDI channel. Let me play around with that for a minute in Ableton. Hold on. Okay, here's that thing we were working with, and the contact channel is shown here. I'm going to head a little bit outside your screen here and look for the MIDI effects and pull in the chord and drop that in front of contact. Hopefully. Come on now. There it is. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll put this one up to, say, 3, and this one to 7. That's off. Those are handy ones for making chords, I find. And let's try this, see what sounds. You see, I've got myself a little choir there. And I could bring this one down an octave. Now, sometimes you can run into trouble going down in Blue Vox because once you go below certain keys shown on the color keyboard, you're getting into control keys that will actually shift the whole thing. Well, so I don't know what's going to happen here. It worked. If I go too low, though, I could have gotten into something completely unexpected. So I'm going to turn off that chord thing, and now we go into the area of just creating new sounds from what we've got here in MIDI. So in order to play with this, I'm going to set this back to loop, because I do want it to loop now. I want it to just keep saying that phrase over and over again. Stop that thing. So we'll go to contact. We've got the arpeggiator going. It's not sounding too good so far, but I think you have to have the gate come up in this. Now, this is something strange. I've had trouble sometimes getting the arpeggiator to connect and work in this thing. And other times, well, that's kind of neat. So sometimes I've done it with this one or with the girls where you put in a step or two and suddenly they're heading out into the stratosphere in what they sing. I'm not sure if I can get it to do it this time or not. We'll just give it one last chance. No, the step thing isn't biting. Sometimes it does though, and you can play around with it and have some interesting fun with it. Well, that's kind of Blue Vox. I wanted you to have a look at it and see what she can do. Remember, there is no I's. You can't say I love you, but you can say other things, you know. I've had most of the lyrics of a song. You have to write your lyrics around what she can say and do some experimenting, collect everything up into audio clips the way I did, maybe even re-record that, play with it in an audio editor, and you've got yourself a track. I like Blue Vox, and I've used it on several of my tracks so far. I think I've got something lined up here that I can play for you that you might hear part of it anyway.
Climate change. We don't want it.
Climate change. We can't. Climate change. We can't stand it. Climate change. Don't let it happen.
So those were voices from Text Aloud, another audio program. They can't sing, they can only talk.
Climate change, oceans rising, climate change, heat is rising, climate change, people rising, climate change, climate change. Climate change.
Well, that's it for my video. I think a little later on, Blue Vox comes in and says, climate change, we don't want it. And that's part of the song. But I think you've got the idea of how to use Blue Vox and what I'm doing with it. Radio Ecoshock, it's all about the environment and climate change. You can tune in by going to ecoshock.org. That's ECOSHOCK.org. It's all free. There's a ton of MP3s. And, of course, we broadcast on 76 nonprofit stations in Canada, the United States, Britain, and Australia. You can get a podcast of it. You can find our SoundCloud page. Just look for Radio Ecoshock on SoundCloud. You'll find some of my other dance music there, not all of which is climate. Some of it's just good dancing music. Check it out. And thanks for giving this a watch.